Here.
Bordelon.
Here.
Casper. Chase.
Here.
DeSiller Fleming.
Here.
Frickman. Gustafson. Hanscom.
Here.
Kotowski.
Here.
Lambert.
Here.
Marley. Marshall. Martin. Massett.
Here.
McDermott. Melendez. Mello Miller.
Here.
Merritt.
Here.
Monahan.
Here.
Newsom. Oliver.
Here.
Pasqualini.
Here.
Perry. Powers Kristen. Powers Sean. Puccino. Richards.
Here.
Quinn. Rogers.
Here.
Starkley. Stevenson.
Here.
Streeter I. Streeter J. Strode. Washington. Wells.
Here.
Whitehouse.
Here.
Whitney.
Here.
And Evan.
Here.
21, just enough.
How many?
21.
21.
Just enough.
Is it?
Yeah, that's it. That is a quorum.
All right, we're at the bare minimum. So can we rise and have a moment of silence, please? Representative Whitney, would you like to lead us in the pledge? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item is to approve the minutes from our May 8th regular meeting. I have a motion to approve by Representative Pasqualini, and it's been seconded by Representative Chase. And I don't even have to get up to a board to write that down anymore. Are there any discussion on those minutes? I just wanted to note the moderator was spelled differently in different places. Thank you.
Love that.
So just some spelling things from me.
Was Chase seconded that?
Yeah, Chase seconded. Anything else beyond a few spelling items? All right, seeing no discussion on that. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, this portion of the RTM agenda is where the RTM welcomes comments from citizens. Each presentation should be limited to 10 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit comments. Presentation should be limited to matters pertinent to Groton. The moderator or members through the moderator shall ask questions only in order to clarify the speaker's presentation. Responses may be given by the moderator or the town manager, and citizens should make their presentations from the lectern and state their name and address for the record. I don't believe there's anyone who's signed up, but if anyone is here who would like to speak, please come forward. All right. All right, the next item is the communications, and I have heard from several RTM members that they were not able to be with us tonight. Representative Washington, McDermott, Newsom, Powers, Marshall, Powers, both Sean and Kristen, Representative Marshall, Casper, and Representatives Irma and Jim Streeter are unable to be with us tonight.
Resignation.
And we have a resignation from Reggie Stanford, who has stepped down to take a position on the city council, and hopefully we'll be able to fill that slot soon. So we have someone who's able to go when we have a quorum from that district, hopefully at our next meeting. Any other communications that anyone has received who would like to share them with us? No. Mr. Burt, would you like to give us your report?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. For the financial report, the fund balance as of May 31st, 2019 is approximately $18 million, which is about 14.8% of the 19 general fund adopted budget. The contingency budget for this year was appropriated at $450,000. It's currently at $248,573. And the capital reserve fund balance as of May 31st is at approximately $1 million. Don't have much to report tonight. I have had a lot of questions about the par 4 entrance ramp. So the current work, the contractor ran into some issues, some bad fill underneath where the previous ramp had been. It's now slated to be done July 8th, shortly before the July 14th Connecticut PGA tournament. And then our people are working then on redoing the parking lot and some other work there after that. So we'll get there, and it'll be much nicer once it's done. And then other than that, just to let people know, due to some staff changes, some turnover, the tax office beginning June 24th will be delaying opening till 10:30 instead of 8:30 in the morning, just because we've had some more turnover. Hopefully that should be just a temporary thing. So we're trying to get some positions filled. So I'm available for any questions.
Representative Gutowski?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. The financial information that you sent out to us, the one I'm looking at right now is the expenditure status report, and it has $753,000 of encumbrances, and I was wondering if that number will go down significantly because we're at the end of the year.
I do know it'll go down. For instance, the Public Works Department has a lot of utility encumbrances, and when you look at that, it looks like it's going to be over budget. They will be within budget, so yeah, that'll go down.
Okay. The other thing is, I was starting to read the highway study, and I got halfway through it. It's really boring. And I was wondering if someone could just give us an overview of it, and basically what's the bottom line of why the expenditure per mile is different in the city and the town. Someone that's really smart about those things.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've looked at that. I'll
Yeah.
take a look at that and get back with you.
Okay. I have one more thing. I know you're working on it, but when it's available, could you please come back to us with the Public Works equipment study?
Yeah, and that's just starting to get underway. I wouldn't anticipate it for at least a couple of months. The main
Thank
thing
you.
is I want it in time for the next budget, but it's on the list.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Any other questions for Mr. Burt? All right, thank you. Next item is economic development. Do we have any?
No, just everything is going well. We had a Sealy School meeting this week and a Mystic Education Center meeting, so hoping to go public with some things over the next few months.
Oh, good.
And then you saw it there, Mahan, last night. That letter of intent was signed for the Groton Heights School, so that's entering the next phase. Now they can get in there and do some work on the building, and eventually leading to a purchase and sale agreement in a few months. So
Great,
things are progressing.
terrific. Dr. Grenier, do you have anything you'd like to
I do.
share with us? Thank you.
I have a few things that I wanted to highlight. One is the last time I was here, we were talking about the federal impact aid, and I think I mentioned that there was an amount that the town had received in excess, extra amount over the amount that had been budgeted. And it actually, even more came in after I met. So for instead of the 3.2 million, which that's in the budget, this is FY19 money, we actually received 5.2 million, 5,253,000 to be exact. So it's a nice boost to the town. We thought it had been 3.2 million for about the last 4 years. Next year, we projected it to be about 3.3 million. This is the aid that comes from the Federal Education Department. And sometimes you get a fairly large chunk in the fiscal year. So this is FY19 money. but they also hold back some, so we get an additional amount from FY18. So as I said, the last time I was here, I thought the number was 4.5 million. Hence, I think I mentioned that I thought there was about 1.2 or $1.3 million extra. In fact, it's $2 million extra. So that's money in the bank. The town has it, and it is the impact aid from the Federal Education Department. The second thing is, one of the times I was here, a few members of the RTM suggested the idea that we would provide a senior citizen discount, and I took that to the board, and we do have a senior citizen discount. Actually, instead of the $5 admission fee, it's $2. And when the board considered any possible change, they asked me to look at other school districts in the Eastern Connecticut Conference, and actually all of them have the exact same thing, pretty much. A $2 or $3 discount, so we're right in there, and the board took no further action on that. In fact, just the other night. The other thing was news that I actually got yesterday, and that is, I think I've mentioned in the past that we have actually two programs in our schools from the International Baccalaureate, and we applied for a third. The first one is the diploma program that probably most of you know about. It's a very academic, high rigor program at the high school that is doing really well, and the students, the enrollment in that program is increasing. And then a couple years ago, we applied for our middle years, meaning grades 6 through 10, and we have implemented that in both of our middle schools and at the high school in grades 9 and 10. But this week, we got the word that we were approved for a career-related international program. And that's a program, I'll give you a little bit of text here, but basically, that's a program that allows students, it's fine for kids planning to go to college, but it's particularly suited for kids not going to college. And so they take 2 international baccalaureate courses, they do an internship, they do a kind of a capstone project, and they can get a certificate in nursing, business, culinary arts, or engineering. The engineering is through Project Lead the Way, which is really a terrific engineering program. So we applied for candidacy. You have to actually be accepted into the program to be a candidate, and then you go through a year or 2 of preparation. You have to prepare those courses, but we already have the culinary arts courses, the business courses. We have Project Lead the Way, and we have our nursing courses. We have a full suite of courses for nursing. The International Baccalaureate folks will be here in about a year. They will look at our program, look at the training of our teachers, and the program was funded actually through a Department of Defense grant, Department of Defense Education Activity Grant. In order to launch a program like this, it's quite expensive. It costs probably $10,000 to $15,000 just to train one full department. So we were able to get it launched through the Department of Defense Education Activity Grant. The last thing is, second to last thing is, for the 3rd year in a row, Groton Food Service Program is going to operate the concession stand at Eastern Point Beach. It is a program that employs, as you can imagine, our kitchen staff is not employed during the summer, not very much. Although we do have a food service program during the summer, but some of the employees actually then work at the concession stand, and a number of our students work at the concession stand. So this Friday, if you're so inclined, from 2 to 4 is going to be a kind of an opening, informal opening, and we would welcome you and to come and kick off the season and get an ice cream cone and enjoy a beautiful part of Groton right there. And then lastly, this Friday will be the promotion ceremony at Westside. I think on the 19th, I have to check my calendar. The 19th is the Cutler ceremony, and then on Friday night, the 21st, is a graduation ceremony for the high school. So we're getting geared up for that. That's for sure. And so that's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Representative Katowski?
Good evening. Nice to see you 2 nights in a row. Okay.
Roseanne is a mentor that we very much appreciate, and she's been mentoring a young girl for the last 4 years, and we had dinner last night, and we appreciated her
Imagine
help.
me and you at dinner. Okay. Okay. I have a question about this grant. You called it the Department of Defense Education Activity Grant.
Correct.
And how much was that?
I think $750,000 over 5 years.
Okay. The list of grants that we were presented in March during that presentation, is that on that list?
It is. I think we called it the STEM grant.
Got it. I see it right there. Okay.
It was an umbrella grant,
Okay.
STEM, because we
Yep.
wrote up the engineering program and got money for that.
Okay. The other thing is, and I know I'm coming at you cold with this, so I don't expect you to have any answers. But on April 5th, we received from the town manager a town attorney opinion regarding Board of Ed grants, and that if they're over $10,000, they have to go to the town council, or if they're, well, anyways, if they're over $10,000, they have to run through the RTM. So I was wondering how we're going to implement that.
Yeah. I'd have to review that decision. I was unaware
Okay.
of that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and the other thing I'll say, like with the impact aid, the vast majority of grants come to the town. They don't come to the Board of Ed. So the budget was just passed last week, the state budget, and the town received an education cost sharing grant of $25 million. And that, of course, comes to the town. So at least those grants obviously come right through the town council to the RTM, to the town.
Thank you. Representative Pasqualini?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Dr. Grenier, my question is on the federal impact aid grant. Now, you say it goes to the town, so you get out of the, well, you had projected 3.2, but out of the 5.2 million, none of it you spend?
No, it doesn't come to the board.
I know it comes to, but who spends it?
The town spends it. It's part of the revenue for the town.
Budgeted toward Board of Ed, or
No,
just
no.
incoming
Nope.
revenue?
It's just income to the town.
All right.
It's part of the financing plan for the school.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Part of the financing plan.
I mean, technically, it is
Ultimately, it's
meant,
the board.
yeah, ultimately, it's the Board of Ed. It's money that comes to the town. So the extra $2 million, it just goes to the town. Obviously, it didn't come to the board.
Okay.
So, we have the preliminary numbers of expected revenues. We look at that at the budget, and this is how much we have towards, Board of Ed. We make up the difference, after all the grants are said and done in terms of what's budgeted, we make up the difference with mill rate, with taxes. But then if something extra comes in, then it basically just, offsets the taxes or goes into the general, one way or another, goes into the general fund then for extra grant not budgeted, so.
All right. So what I'm saying, what I'm gathering is it's 5.2, 3.2 was projected, so there's $2 million
That goes into the general fund
that
balance.
isn't budgeted to be spent at
Right.
all.
Right, other than we took some fund balance for this for the 2020 budget. So it's just part of fund balance generally of the town's general fund. And we're using, I think, is it 1.55 million So it's just lumped in with all of our general fund dollars.
I understand.
'Cause if
I'm
we
just
would've
trying
known
to get when it comes in, because I mean, a lot of my constituents are starting to speak up about our sports facilities and everything at the schools. And when when I see that there's money coming in, that should really go back to schools, but in a way, we have a way to direct it, not to go to teacher salaries, not to go over here. We want to do this, or we want this rebuilt. We want something done. So that's why I was looking at, all of a sudden, there's $2 million extra come in that wasn't accounted for or expected.
Right.
And it's coming in for education.
Though we wouldn't have,
As
we
part
wouldn't
of
have
the
done as much
federal
mill,
impact
right. We
aid
wouldn't have done as much
is
tax
what I'm
dollars, though,
getting at.
right.
I would actually say it's coming in because of it, not necessarily for education, because the extra $2 million is not going to the schools.
Right.
And
But
then,
it does come in because of it.
and we use our general fund balance and other tax dollars generally to do CIPs at the school. So it just goes through that process.
Okay.
It's really, it's a concept of one taxpayer.
Right.
We work together.
Right.
And next year I could come back and say, we thought it was 3.2 million, but it came in at 3 million. So I always think what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Some years it's good, some years not so good.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I know that I've spoken at several of your meetings at the Annex regarding the ROTC programs, and my son did make me aware that you guys did send out a survey to the middle schools requesting if they would be interested in the ROTC program. So thank you for that. That's a start. I know that there are certain people on the board that were opposed to wanting an ROTC program for whatever reason, I'm not sure. But I'm checking to see where are we at this point.
Well, in terms of specifically the ROTC program, the Navy has not approved an ROTC program in years. There is a National Defense High School program that is funded 100% by the town, by the board. And we did send out the survey, and my understanding is that we're going to be presenting the board with some estimates. I think the board would have to take a serious look at this, because it would have to fund a teacher and all the uniforms, and so that'd be on top of what we already have, obviously.
Right. When we're looking at career readiness and students that are not attending college, military, and considering that we get a lot of federal funding for having military students in our district already, if that number's at 21%, which we're receiving a lot, and that account is still quite high, one would think that we could find a way to fund it, considering we are a military community, and over 25 to 30 students a year graduate from Fitch that join the Coast Guard or some form of military service in this town. And I think it's something that we should be doing, because we're agreeing to fund the IB program. So I'm hoping and still pushing that we fund an ROTC program in the town of Groton. I was also checking the status of the lead. Last I heard, you guys were refitting things. Last you stated they were...
It's on the web. The latest results are on the web.
So what is the latest?
No detectable level of water.
So everything is...
Every place we have checked, there's no detectable level.
One of my last questions I had asked that I hadn't received a response yet, you would get back to me, or was the levels that are now, everything's at least allowable, my understanding.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
There
so
are
so the ones that are still at allowable,
well,
how are we going to, let me
yeah.
just finish my thought, how are we going to check those to make sure that they don't go above allowable?
Okay.
So are we implementing checking them every 3 months?
Yeah, good question.
Twice a year? I'd
Right.
like to feedback onto how are we going to address the allowable levels in the town in the way that we're going to make sure they don't become above allowable.
Okay.
So that's the information I was still waiting on. Also, middle schools, there's been some concerns from different family members that have addressed me regarding with the groundbreaking of the new elementary schools, and it's going to start on the field sides at both schools. People are concerned making sure softball, cross country, soccer, fall sports that require using the field is not going to be jeopardized or eliminated next year. So where are we going to be putting these kids so that they can still play softball, soccer, whatever we provide? So what is the plan for that? And looking at the at one of your meetings a few months back, the director of food service came out and stated that he was going to be applying for to see if we qualify for Title I schools. And the schools, I believe, were the three were Westside, Catherine Kolnowski, and Claude Chester were the three that have the highest free and reduced rates. And it was going to be submitted, and then he'd have a response back, and then it would come to the board, and the board was going to then look at that and have to do an action by a certain date. I believe it was June. What is the status on that?
Is that your last question?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me go back to, I wrote them down. When you talk about testing for lead, there is no such thing as allowable. What you have are actionable levels and non-actionable. Actionable means that you must take action on the water because it is of a level that the DEP says is not acceptable. So we have tested the water, and we have no water anywhere in the district. The last place where we had some actionable level was at the concession stand. We changed all the fixtures there, and it is no longer actionable. So we're working with the Department of Health to put together a schedule, and then those a regular schedule for not only at the high school but at the other schools, and we'll post those results as they become available. In terms of the fields next year, there will be no, actually there'll be no disruption of the field at Westside, and there'll only be a couple of week disruption, probably be late in August at the Cutler site, because we have to move a sewer line, and they're going to basically dig it up, put the sewer line down, and fix the field. So for next year, the fields will not be disrupted. The year after that is problematic because when we build the new middle school, the fields won't be available for a year at the middle school. You have to plant them and let them set. The fields at Westside will also be disrupted because that's where the construction equipment is going to be staged. So in the summer of 20, not this summer, but next summer, they will be disrupted. And the last thing is the board looked at the program that you're talking about, which is called a community eligibility provision. And that is if you have anywhere from 60 to 70% of the children in the school eligible for free and reduced lunch, the Federal Department of Agriculture, USDA, has a program, and so we know that Westside, Colchester, and Catherine Konowski are eligible for that, and we have submitted that application. Well, to be truthful, the board's going to actually vote on the 24th of June, but they already approved it the other night. There would be no reason not to. But just for those three Title I schools.
And there was, my last thing to that, there was also talk about pairing them up with similar schools, that if you had like Westside here, you might be able to take another school and pair it up. Is that a possibility, or is that not being looked at?
It was looked at. It's not possible. The problem, well, it's not a problem, but Westside will be Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP. Westside will be a CEP program, a school for 1 year, because it will be closed after next year. Colchester School will be a CEP program for 2 years, and you keep it for 4 years if the school is still open. So Catherine Konowski will have it for 4 years. So then the question will be, we think the Westside CEP status will travel with it at least for 1 year to Groton Middle School, and we're going to have to recalculate it after that. we're hoping, of course, that the Claude Chester status would travel to at least one of the new schools. So we'll have to see what the free and reduced percentages are for those children.
And thank you for the information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Representative Mello-Miller?
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Gannett. Just an update on the beams at Northeast Academy. Do we have a schedule yet for working on those?
We bid it out. 3 or 4 companies have bid on it. I know we were a bit concerned because of the late bidding process that it wouldn't be done this summer. My understanding is we will award the bid in the next week, and the work will be done this summer. It would be difficult to do the work when the school is in session, so we're sort of pushing to get it done in August.
So far for the bid, is it within estimate of the
yeah.
CIP?
Yes, for sure. Actually, we're pretty confident we could get under that amount.
Okay, and then can you give us an update on construction of the new middle school? Is there any kind of progress to report on what's been going on, if there's, anything?
They have laid the foundation, and they are beginning to lay steel. And my information is that within another couple of weeks, you're going to start seeing this 4-story building rise above where it is right now. But they're very much on schedule. They're within budget. We continue to work with the architects. So I think you'll certainly see in the next couple of weeks the superstructure go up.
And is there going to be any, considering the summer traffic we have coming in on 1 and stuff, is this going to impede on the roadways at all during the summer? Are you aware of?
Nothing. I know they've posted some signs there because some people. Well, first of all, the reason they put that big construction fence is to stop people because it can be very distracting, a big construction site like that. So I know they did that, and I know they've put some signs out there to warn vehicles, drivers, that there could be some large construction, because there is. You're right. There's a lot of big construction vehicles that are going in there, but I don't think there's any particular concern other than the safety concern.
Okay, so I just want to make sure the roads are still.
Yeah, the roads are.
considering
Yep, the roads will be well monitored.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Representative Massett?
Dr. Grenier, this is about the IB, Career
Yes.
Program. Are we in conflict with what Grosso does, or is our program, I guess, better?
Well, no, I don't. We're not in competition. The students who go to Grasso have 6 weeks of shop class, and then 6 weeks of academics, and so they're well grounded in the academics, and of course they're very well grounded in the shop. What we're doing with the IB is the International Baccalaureate has this program that. Nursing is a good example. You take it's all geared to the 11th and 12th grade. Take 2 nursing courses, which we have, and you take any 2 International Baccalaureate classes. So, for example, in nursing, you might want to take International Baccalaureate Biology and International Baccalaureate, say, Spanish, because you thought that might be helpful in the workplace. And then what you do, you take a course that they called Core, and it involves an internship, it involves an extended essay, not quite as big as the diploma candidate essay, but like a 1,000-word essay. And then it involves some kind of a capstone project, which we think is really going to be terrific. A lot of our nursing students, for example, go to L&M, and they actually sit for the Certified Nursing Assistant exam. So that's the sort of thing that would be wrapped up and put together in an International Baccalaureate certificate, which would really be, I think, helpful for students who want to get into the nursing field or to switch gears in the engineering for a student who's interested in perhaps going from high school right to EB. It would really be a great ground level course in drafting and so forth. So we're really excited that the International Baccalaureate will not only serve our kids that are getting ready to go to college, but clearly the kids who are interested in the military and who want to go right into a career field. But it's not, it's not welding and carpentry and that sort of thing.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Representative Rogers?
Good evening. Just a quick question. I'm wondering how many International Baccalaureate certificate graduates we will have graduating from Fitch this year.
Did you say certificate program?
Yeah,
No, none certificate. You're talking about the diploma.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, diploma.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So let me give you some sense of when the program kind of went through some ups and downs. And 6 years ago, when I first arrived, there were 3. And I knew it was on a sort of its last legs. This year, we have 22. But the sophomore class, because after sophomore year, students have to, because it's a 2-year course. So math, IB math is a 2 years, 11th and 12th grade, 2-year world language, 2-year what we call theory of knowledge class. So the students, the sophomores who signed up, 33 was the largest I think we've ever had. But we had, in addition to the diploma, which means they have to take 6 courses. Actually, Mr. Bert's daughter is one of them. And my grandson is one of them. But anyway, the students have to take these courses, but other students just take a course or 2. And we have, I think we have 276 students taking courses next year, which is phenomenal. But when we start the career certificate program, I'm hoping, that will be 300 to 400 students. It could be huge.
Would there be any, other than workload, anything to preclude a student from, for example, doing the career business program and the regular IB diploma?
Other than the workload.
Aggressive.
Yeah. If you talk to Mr. Bert's daughter and my grandson, they would probably say no, because it is a very rigorous program. They have to, the kids in the diploma program have to write a 3,000-word essay, and they have to do independent research, and it's a lot. But yeah, hypothetically, but the other thing I thought you were going to say was, would it preclude a student from taking music courses? That's often the conflict, because high school presents these difficult challenges for students. They want to take engineering, they want to maybe take a business class, personal finance class, and they want to be in the band or the chorus. And there are only 8, there are 4 one day and 4 the next. There are only 8 classes you can take in a year. So that gets to be problematic. So this career certificate program would allow students much more flexibility and still get an International Baccalaureate certificate out of it.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Representative Whitney?
Just have 2 quick questions. One is wondering about the timing for the Fitch asbestos abatement, if that's been set for this summer. And then the other question is, I think the board decided that to eventually close Mary Morris, and I was just wondering if that's correct on that and what the timeline is for that. Thank you.
Thanks. We have, as you know, the CIP was approved, but it takes a long time to set up an asbestos. So we're gonna do the whole project, but it's going to be next summer, because when you do an asbestos project, children under the age of 18 are not allowed in the building. So that was part of the reason why we wanted to pick up that extra money, because we just want to close the school off for it's only for about 3 weeks or so, but well, the high school is a busy place. So summer of 20 will be the asbestos. The other issue is this. Hope I can do this mental math for you. The 2 elementary schools will each house about 600 children. And if Groton wants to get full reimbursement, and we certainly want to get full reimbursement of $100 million for the big project, we would have to have 600 children in each of those schools. And so I suspect that Colchester School, which is the second oldest and physically probably the most troubled, in terms of facility, and SB Butler. When the board closes both of those schools in June of 21, that's the timeline, that will account for about 650 students. So we need about 550, to be exact, to occupy, to enroll in the 2 new schools. So the board realized that we could close, well, originally it was supposed to be 3. It was supposed to be Colchester, SB Butler, and Pleasant Valley. But we now realize we could close a 4th school. And so the board looked at the two schools. Obviously, we're not going to close Catholic Kolnowski and Northeast Academy because they're only 10 or 11 years old. So it left the 2 schools, the 2 military schools, Charles Barnum or Mary Morrison. Mary Morrison is the more troubled facility. The playground floods on a regular basis and is unusable, and the physical layout, the parking lot is not the best, to put it mildly. So the board has considered all those alternatives. They have identified Mary Morrison as the school that will be closed in June of 21, and those children will go, in all likelihood, although this decision has not yet been made, but in all likelihood, those children will go to the elementary school nearby, which would be at Westside, on the Westside site. But they won't vote until the 24th. There's actually quite a bit of voting going on the 24th. The CEP will be official, the free and reduced lunch at the title schools, the free lunch, total free, for all children will be decided that night. And the board has on its agenda to close Mary Morrison School well, technically in the fall of 21. It will no longer be operating.
All right, any other questions? Representative Merritt?
Just one consideration talking about the new school construction. I hope that you've been talking to the architects about the fact that the upkeep and maintenance, et cetera, of what they design has to come to this body here. And in my brief viewing of the front of Konasky School, I personally would have come up with a different idea that may have saved us some money down the road, but that's just my opinion.
Right. I met with the architects last week, and they have a really an attractive. So I think they have an attractive kind of video, a 360-degree view of inside the school, the library, the performing arts spaces, the outside of the school. It's a kind of really fascinating. So I mentioned that to the chairman of the board, Kim Shepherdson Watson, and she said what we should do is what we did with the middle school. We should get the board, the town council, and the RTM together and invite the architects in. I think you'll be very pleased. They were cognizant, I think because the permanent school building committee made it obvious. The buildings are being built with very durable materials, but you'll get a good look at the buildings. They're essentially identical. However, the one that's they're not really identical, because the one that's being built at Westside is on really a steep incline. And of course, the one being built at Cutler will be a straight 3-story building. The one at West Side will appear to be a 2-story building, but out back there'll be this lower level. But yeah, we'll make sure that the designs come forward. I'm planning this summer to do that.
I'm actually referencing considered maintenance 10, 15 years down the road.
Yeah.
And like I said, I looked at the front of Conaskey School, and I purposely would have done it a different way.
I think many of us would have. I agree with you, Roscoe.
Following on with that, I'd kind of like to ask if any renewable energy options like geothermal are being considered for these new schools.
The only one that I know for sure is solar panels. That is being planned.
For the 2 elementary and the middle
Correct.
school?
I can't swear about the middle school, but I know for sure the elementary.
They're looking at the middle school.
Two different architects, but yeah. In the distinction I want to make, and I appreciate you asking about the construction, is that I and my staff work hard on the programs in the school, but the town's permanent school building committee actually designs and plans the building. So when it comes to the sort of the brick and mortar, that's the town side. When it comes to how big the library ought to be and where they want the book stacks, well, you may remember books. Not too many books in media centers anymore. But that's a charming old anachronism.
I think Representative Merritt, though, has a good point, which is to think into the future about the cost of maintaining these buildings, and that maybe, architectural fabulousness is less important than kind of durability and ease of maintenance.
Yep, we have made that very clear to the architect.
Okay. Representative Katowski?
Thank you. I have a question about what you just said about Mary Morrison. I'm hearing tonight for the first time that Mary Morrison is closing. I did not know that. Does Mary Morrison have 550 students?
No, it has about 400.
Okay. So we don't get to 600 and 600 at all?
We do. Because we're going to have preschool programs in there, and those are half-day programs, so each class counts double.
Did we know that there was a 600 student minimum requirement per elementary school to get the $100 million reimbursement this whole time?
Oh, sure.
So why wasn't Mary Morrison closing part of the plan that was presented to the voters when they voted?
Because we knew that there were 3 elementary schools at the time before Pleasant Valley was closed. See, when we closed Pleasant Valley School, we simply sent those children to other schools. And so the remaining, there used to be 7 elementary schools. So when we closed Pleasant Valley, we sent more students to Mary Morrison, more students. So had that school been open, if it was still open now, that would have been the 3rd school. But because of that, because of the closing, Mary Morrison was never in. Not until about 2 months ago, then we actually took the enrollment numbers and we realized it would be possible, and of course economical for the town. It'd be a cost savings, cost avoidance, I guess I should say. So that would be significant.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I, once again, just can't stress enough from all of the slack, all the complaints in the town regarding our turnover of buildings, and it's really exciting that Groton Heights is on the, is pretty much moving and going to be moved into. We have to have a plan with this many schools closing in 2021 that we're going to turn these over in a swift, equitable fashion where things aren't going to be mildewed, moldy, unusable, unsellable. And with that, we still have not had Pleasant Valley turned over. And so adding Mary Morrison to the list, I just really encourage the town, once again, you hear 2 different sides, 2 different things. Whatever the reason is, as a town, we need to work together and make sure that it's swift and fast and appropriate so that we're not like leaving stuff to go to waste, and that we can get these on the rolls and get them, sold in a timely manner. So with that, what is the plan with, where do we stand on the update with Pleasant Valley that's still in limbo?
We have the mayor has proposed a task force made up of RTM members, town council members, and Board of Ed members to put a plan together, actually a procedural, but not just for that school, but for other schools. We are in the process of, the town is actively marketing that building, and so we provide access to, so the fact that the board has retained sort of management of the building has not slowed down the sale of the building.
I guess some would say differently, but I guess it depends on the opinion. The fact that we haven't been able to have a full open door sale to sell things because part of the building is being scaffolded off because of mold, and I have that as a taxpayer, as a town person, that city, wherever you come from, that's a problem. And the task force, that's news to me about the task force. I would love to be invited on that task force as an RTM member.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll pass that along.
Who's overseeing that?
I think really Mayor Granatowski is kind of running the show.
Because it hasn't been, I've never gotten an email being offered the option,
Right.
so,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. I see no more questions, so thank you, Dr. Grenier.
You're welcome.
The next item on our agenda is liaison reports. Representative Bordelon, do you have no? Representative Wells, do you have a golf advisory report to provide us with?
I think I'll walk up there. I'm afraid it's not too exciting. The meeting was on June 3rd this month, and we get a report on the revenue for the course, and I thought I'd try to summarize it for you, but I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense. May revenue was 7% off the previous May, but only 2% lower than the prior 4-year average. And that could easily be a weather report, because if it rains and when it rains, it makes a difference. Raining in fact, I think last weekend we may have a great June simply because we had our first weekend with no rain since February. Let's see, and ever popular, our Facebook followers have gone past the 1,000 mark and is now at 1,030. Much of the credit for this goes to Jessica Patterson, the new community outreach coordinator. She's wandering about the course, talking to golfers, and working to attract, and she's also working to attract younger golfers with a social element. And to that, in that regard, on the 20th, they're going to have another meet and greet social. The first one was, as they said, lightly attended, but they'll give it another go on the 20th. It'll be 5 to 7 at par 4 and includes free appetizers. They're drafting a new rule regarding groups that come and want to sell food and beverage as part of the group event at the golf course, and that would infringe on par 4's franchise to sell food at the course. So they're going to require prior approval if you're going to provide food or beverage at the golf course for your group, if you're bringing a group. And they're putting the finishing touches on the golf survey questions. There's going to be a short survey at the beginning of the season, and they're getting apparently volunteers, Fitch High School golfers, to come and conduct the survey. In the fall, there'd be a longer questionnaire to assess how people feel toward the end of the season.
Thank you. Representative Whitehouse, do you have an Economic Development Commission report?
So Mr. Burt touched on some of the economic development activities, but a couple of high points from the most recent meeting. We did discuss the Groton New London Airport. And so the question about the airport very often is there, will there be commercial service from there? Because the impression most people have is if there isn't commercial service, it's not really doing anything, which is not true because there's a great deal of traffic, private charter traffic and whatnot coming through our airport. However, there are some preliminary information being gathered to determine if there would be demand because we have a Navy base, we have Electric Boat, we have Pfizer, and they are finding that there's a lot of money being spent by these institutions to send people to various places. So if they can find that, say for example, Washington D.C. or Philadelphia or something like that has a lot of traffic going back and forth, then it might justify a route or two. So it certainly won't become a TF Green or Bradley by any means, but at least we could have some, to one or two cities traveling out of Groton, which would of course be a big economic booster, both directly with the money generated from that, and of course with traffic bringing people into the town. They're developing. We've secured some limited funding for the initial implementation for the wayfinding project. They're working with the Downtown Mystic Merchants Association. The whole plan is to create kind of a unified sign plan, so when people come into town from any direction, they get sort of a consistent Groton brand, and they sort of know where they are, which is important for a destination, especially in the Mystic community here. And also, we have something called the Economic Assistance Fund, which a lot of people are not familiar with. But basically what it's for is for businesses that are expanding or doing projects to help with parts of it that would be of permanent benefit to the site or to the town. For example, Grand Wine and Spirits, which is up on Route 12, the new building that's being built there across from the Kentucky Fried Chicken. That money's going towards redoing the drainage system. Because if you know the area, it's really at the bottom of a hill, so when it rains, all the water flows down to that building. And so they need a new drainage system so that it's not the Grand Lake of Spirits. So the great thing about it is whether or not, if that business stays or not, the property will be greatly improved, which means the value is higher, which means the potential tax value is higher as well. So that's the kind of thing that we have that can sort of give a little kicker to existing projects and improve, create permanent improvements on the kind of the physical plant of the town, if you will. So that's pretty much all the high points from the Economic Development Commission. Thank you.
Yeah, we have questions. Representative Whitehouse, Representative Merritt.
Two questions. The previous owners of that property where the Grand Spirit Shop's going, did they ever have any flooding there? And in reference to the airport, did anybody ever look at why Allegheny Airlines left the area?
Those are excellent questions to which I do not have answers.
But I think they're important questions.
Yes.
So was US Air.
Yep, US Air.
But I still do not have answers.
Okay.
So I will see if I can.
If there was no flooding there previously and the terrain really hasn't changed,
I believe there was some.
what are we spending money on drainage for? And that's also a state road.
Yeah, Mr. Bird, do you know anything about that property? And I thought
I heard there had been, but I don't want to swear to
that. Okay. Yeah, I think it was more severe weather. It wasn't just every time it rained, but I think it was the kind of thing that when in the more severe weather, the water would either back up or flow into something else or something.
I think a lot of that drainage could be state drainage on Route 12.
Possibly. I think the water would have to go through the property to get to Route 12.
Well, it depends on where it's coming from.
Yeah. No, it's coming from I don't know what the street is called. The road that runs up behind that.
Walker Hill.
Yeah. And I don't know anything about what happened to the airline. I think it was simply an economic, that the routes weren't financially viable, and so that's why the previous airline pulled out, but I'm no expert on that. Simply that happened before I came to town. So, but
that was a good airline, and it did provide the routes that you spoke of.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see what I can find out, though, and email everybody.
What's the source of the funding of that Economic Assistance Fund?
That is from,
Ultimately general fund.
yeah, but it's
Money put aside for that,
What's the amount of that?
of what they receive.
Yeah.
It's fairly small. It's in the. I mean, they give it out usually in the 5 figures, and I think it's funded in the 6 figures.
What's the process for competing for that money?
They make applications to the there's a subcommittee on economic development commission.
Can you use the microphone? Sorry.
They would make up, well, after negotiations and seeing if it's really needed through the planning staff, it would go to the Economic Development Commission from there and then be recommended. There's a I don't know if it's the whole EDC or just a subcommittee that looks at that.
Is it just taken on a rolling basis then?
Well, there's a permanent fund there, but then you have particular requests and you look to see if it's needed. So it's a rolling basis based on the projects. And then it goes to the full council then, ultimately.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing where they might give, $25,000 to a $8 million project. So we're not funding building projects. We're funding small portions of it that will permanently benefit the town in a long-term way. I believe is the concept of it. Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it for our committee reports. The next item on our agenda, or liaison reports, excuse me, I believe Representative Lambert is going to provide us with the Finance Committee's minutes.
Thank you. As you can see, I'm filling in for Beverly Washington.
Yeah.
All right, so the Finance Committee meeting was called to order at 6:37 p.m. on Monday, June 3rd, 2019, by Chairperson Beverly Washington. The meeting was held at the Groton Senior Center in Classroom A. Members in attendance: Representative Bruce McDermott, Clarence Casper, Roseanne Katowski, Wilmer Lambert, and Beverly Washington. Members absent: Representative Robert Martin and Autumn Hascom. Others in attendance: Finance Director Cindy Landry, Representative Karen Adams, and Kathy Chase. Unfinished business, none. New business, fiscal year 2019 budget account review. Discussion. Finance Director Cindy Landry reviewed the Finance Committee, the revenue status report and the expenditure status report up through May 31st, 2019. On the revenue side, the town did better than expected due to increase in budget in building permits, increase in revenue from investment. Because of increase in interest rates, the town is earning an increase in interest rate on their account. State grants, aid for school, there was an increase in ECS funds. Also, there is a pending grant for magnet school transportation. State aid general, this grant is for everything not educational. For example, road maintenance, snow plowing, etc. Federal grants and aids, this is impact aid we received from the federal government that came in over budget because we received additional funding from prior years. Charges for current services, conveyance taxes, the ledges was sold, general property taxes, school, library, recreation, fees, space rentals, etc. This was a good year as far as revenue. We budgeted $125,856,730 for revenue. Year-to-date receipts are $127,260,287 with 26 cents. Available balance $1,403,556 and 26 cents. Fund balance will be 16 or 17%. Our goal is 15%, so we are above our goal. Town is still waiting for CT state budget to be approved to see how that will affect our budget. On the expenditure side, the town is over budget in a few accounts: voter registration, human resources, parks and recs, public works. Insurance and claims, capital reserve, and contributions to other funds are 100% budgeted, meaning money is put into these accounts at the beginning of the fiscal year. The City of Groton and Groton Log Point accounts are paid on a monthly basis. All the money in available balance that is not spent at the end of the fiscal year goes back to the general fund. Again, whatever funds that are left goes back into the general fund. Spending money at the end of the year because departments may have some left is not encouraged. If you do not need it, do not spend it. So $1,095,000 is coming from fund balance to 2020 budget to maintain current mill rate. Representative Bruce McDermott left at 7:10. The second item was fiscal year 2019 fourth quarter transfers. Resolution for fiscal year ending in 2019 fourth quarter transfer. Whereas the town charter provides for supplemental appropriations to adopted budgets and transfer for the contingency function during the year. And whereas the town charter also provides for the transfers of funds from one departmental function to another departmental function during the last 3 months of the fiscal year. And whereas transfers are necessary and represent unforeseen or unexpected expenditures at the time the FYE 2019 budget was adopted. Now therefore be it resolved that the transfer totaling in $116,475 be transferred from contingency to the following general fund departments / functions and referred to the RTM for approval. Voter registration, $24,980. 2 referendum costs not included in the budget. Human resources, $11,400. Costs associated with retirement plan changes. Finance, $27,883. Retirement for long-term employees. Public Works, $30,212. Salary for landfill operator added to budget. Library, $22,000. Retirement for long-term employees. Motion made by Wilmer Lambert, seconded by Representative Clarence Casper. Discussion. Finance Director Landry discussed fourth quarter transfer with committee. Legislative policy transfer needed due to attorney fees and ads for charter revision. Groton Long Point and City of Groton street lights were more than anticipated. Voter registration needs $24,980 due to 2 referendums for school projects. Most of the cost is to pay for the workers. The workers are not volunteers. Human Resources needs $11,400 for actuary services that provided documentation for retirement plan design changes. Finance needs $27,883 due to retirement of long-term employees. Payment provision in union contract, 100% vacation days and 75% of 100 sick days. Sick days max out at 200 days. Public Works needs $30,212 for 1 half-year salary for landfill operator. Added body to budget, but not salary. Library needs $22,000 for retirement of a long-term employee. Unfortunately, the town cannot plan for people leaving and the referendums. There was a brief discussion about putting a stricter limit on retirement, sick, and vacation time payouts in the future. Votes to approve resolution. Representative Kotowski, Lambert, Casper, and Washington. Vote to oppose, none. Vote to abstain, none. Resolution approved by the Finance Committee. Any questions?
So would you like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I make a motion to approve these minutes.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes of the Finance Committee made by Representative Lambert and seconded by Representative, what? Pasqualini. Sorry. Is there any discussion on those? Representative Bordelon?
Oh, is it discussion on the minutes? I apologize.
Yeah. All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
22.
We have 22 members, and that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So would you like to put a motion on the floor from your minutes? Does she have to read the whole where?
He just read the whole thing.
Okay, since you just read it, if you could just like maybe read the two resolves.
Yep.
The motion to transfer from contingency, and then the motion to transfer from the general fund.
So, all right, so now, therefore be it resolved that transfer totaling $116,475 be transferred from contingency to the following general fund.
Start before that, because we have to get it out of contingency first to have enough money, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah. The transfers totaling $10,159.
There's 2 results.
Missing that.
Just a few lines up.
Yeah.
I think I'm missing that. Yeah, I think I'm missing I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. All right. So resolved that transfer totaling $10,155 be transferred from contingency to the following general fund departments. Legislative policy, $2,285. for legal fees and ad for charter revision commission. Groton Long Point, $442 for street lights additional cost. And City of Groton, $7,432 street lights additional cost. So do we start there or do we continue?
Continue.
All right.
And just to make sure, it was $10,159, right? I thought I heard something slightly.
$10,159,
Okay,
correct.
perfect, then keep going.
And further resolve that transfer totaling $116,475 be transferred from contingency to the following general fund department / functions and referred to the RTM for approval. Voter registration, $24,980. Human resources, $11,400. Finance, $27,883. Public works, $30,212. And library, $22,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor made by Representative Lambert, seconded by Representative Bailey to have fourth quarter transfers from contingency to the general fund and then from the general fund to 5 different departments. Is there a discussion on these? Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I was just wondering if there could be some discussion about the transfer station. Is that a new hire, someone just temporarily coming in?
No, it's that, if you recall, a year ago, we looked at diminishing the number of days, reducing the number of days that the transfer station was open, sorry. After getting some different input from the public, what they decided on was to increase the fees at the transfer station in hopes of covering the cost to maintain the level of service. And knowing at the time, we didn't know, by increasing the fees, you don't know how many users you're going to lose. So we knew at the time that we didn't know how that was going to turn out. It did increase the total amount of revenue significantly, but it was still $30,000 too little to cover the full cost of those days. So it's nothing new. It was just maintaining that same service.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there were complaints about closing it during certain times. I remember. Any other questions? Hope seeing none, all in favor of this motion as it was read, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously, 22 in favor. Thank you, Representative Lambert, for filling in.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda, I don't believe there are any other committee reports. We could have budget discussions if there is any desire to. You all budgeted out? All right. No, there's several other items. Representative Whitehouse?
I just had a quick question for the town manager or something. So during the budget, we had one of the CIPs is for the park, the paved area, and we ended up with a number that didn't quite make sense because it was to patch it instead of actually fix it. And I was thinking with the fourth quarter transfers, is that something that that the town council could allocate another $12,000 or whatever that piddling amount of money to do it right would be? Is there a process that we could?
What?
Well, I'm not quite, could they basically, were these shortchanged in terms of doing it right? A lot of these were, for instance, things that came up during the year. Betty Ann retired. That was, unexpected. There was
this is a particular CIP where the discussion was that we all agreed that it should have been, I don't remember the number, but it should have been like 8,000 higher.
Right.
The basketball courts.
Yeah.
$50,000.
Yeah, I forgot how much short. I'd have to how much short was that? I forget.
It was 8,000, I
Yeah.
believe.
No, 7,000. 7,000 was 3,000.
Yeah, but is there some way that?
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. They totally fallen off my radar.
Yeah, it seems like something that there must be some easy way to.
Yeah, let me take a look at it.
Yeah, instead of patching it and then repatching it in 3 years.
I'd ask Mark Berry to remind me once we got into the new year to discuss it before he did anything.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm reminding you. So.
And then it fell right out of my head.
All right, thank you.
I will leave myself a note, though, to check on it.
Different money into his own budget.
Oh, you can. Representative Katowski, we're in other business now.
Thank you. I'd like to request a referral regarding the town attorney opinion information sent to the RTM on April 5th, 2019 by the town manager regarding Board of Education grant money and RTM approval.
Yes. So, Mr. Burt, this was in response to your memo that you wrote, which was in response to queries from this body during the budget season, and I believe there's just a need to have a process established where those grants would go to the town council and then be referred to us
Well, there's
for
already
review.
rules in place for it. It's just following those rules. I've told Dr. Grenier before I left that I'd resend him that opinion. I did send it back in March or whatever it was. I'll resend it to him. And basically what it says is if a grant comes in mid-year that was not budgeted, you have a set budget for the Board of Ed. If a grant comes in mid-year that would increase that budget, the expenditure side, by more than 10,000, then it should come to the RTM. I'm going to resend that to him tomorrow, but it's already there in the charter. I'm sure they're probably going to want their own attorney to review our opinion, but I will resend that opinion to him tomorrow. But rules are in place. There's really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, once we get those opinions kind of sorted out, I think the liaison committee, the Board of Ed, Town Council, RTM, City might be a good place to kind of start that conversation about developing a process. Does that sound adequate? Okay, you can give this to Betsy. She can distribute it to everyone.
Yeah.
Do you have something?
I'm just tired.
Okay. Any other business? Representative Bordelon?
One quick question. When we were going over different item lines in the budget, and there was the symphony orchestra that was in with like rape crisis, how do we get that out of there? I mean, I know it's way down the road, but thinking ahead, if that was something, how does that get in there, and how does one get it out of there, or how do we? When do we have to start that process to move that around, or asked how to get that moved?
I'll take a look at it. I'll write myself a note to discuss with
I mean, I
Cindy.
know it's like 3,500, wasn't it, or something like that, or I just think the school can afford to pay for that, and I'd rather see that money go to another.
Oh, so not moving it, just
well,
zeroing it out in the future?
I have a couple different suggestions, but it just seems really weird that it's there and it's a school. I don't know. I'm not saying we shouldn't fund the arts. I'm all for funding it, but I think under all the grants that they get, $3,500, they should be able to take the money to do. But I don't know. That's just my opinion.
All right.
You know, that was a Parks and Rec thing. That used to be Groton Art Waves, which was an offshoot of Parks and Rec. You know, I guess like a subcommittee of Parks and Rec. It was long ago, and that's when they funded that particular item, the symphony concert. And then when Art Waves went away, the town just kept doing it.
So there's kind of two pieces to it. One, where the location of that money is, and two, whether there's any money, which, you know, that's slightly out of my hands. I think, submitted 0 originally on that, and it was put back in. So really, all we would look at initially is where that location is. I'm trying to think where the cultural, I'm trying to think, yeah, so I'll take a look at it. Maybe that's a better place for it. I'll talk with Cindy and see what she thinks.
Or just asking, I mean, having the meetings that you guys have with the Dr. Grenier and finding out if there's a way that they can fund that.
It's an outing, you know.
Well, this body did vote to fund it, so I think for this year at least, it's not something to discuss. Representative Stevenson?
She can email the manager.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I was just wondering if there's been any update about the enterprise zone stuff and how, going forward, what that looks like for Groton?
I don't have an update at this point, at this time, but I will, because I know it was moving along, but I'm trying to think if I saw if it got approved or not. I'll check on it and I'll get back with you.
Now we can have it adjourned.
No other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn. Representative Monahan, seconded by Representative Bailey. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys for coming in.